The Pat Mayo Experience.
Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings. Week 9 DraftKings Picks preview. We'll go over the ownership and injuries at each position where the leverage might actually fall. Then we'll optimize some lineups and build them out for you on the big screen if you're watching on the video. If you're not watching on the video, of course, you will not be able to see the video, so I will try to talk that through for you. Smash a like to the episode, sub to Mayo Media Network, and join the Pat Mayo Experience Listeners League. 1,000 spots remain this week, rake free, $15 to play. Link is down in the description. RunTheSims.com, code Mayo for all of the tools that you need. If you want some context behind that, Tambo is in studio. ShipItNation.com, code Mayo, get you the discount over there on all packages.
10% off as well. Yeah, you betcha. It's a good week ahead. Excited. King of the Beach week. The Beach Boys are back in town. We got the perfect setup, Pat. 3 King of the Beach seats, 3 spots in the Pat Mayo Experience Listeners League. Put those together. That looks like my week. I'm not going to try and get too greedy here. I'm going to get after it and just try and get into this. I'll mix a few other tournaments in, and we'll go through this stuff today, but definitely my main focus is on that.
Yeah, I have my one lineup to try to come inside the top 75. I'll probably come dead last because that's just how this is going to go. But you have a very generous offer to the people out there.
Yeah, we're going to run it back from last season. So this year, we're going to double it. I'm going to go from 5%. We're going to go 10%. I'm going to give away 10% if I get a lineup through. If I get multiples through, this still applies, but if I get lineups through, 10% of the highest finish for a giveaway. So the max giveaway would be winning the first place prize of $300,000. No TOC carryover. We'll just stick to the $300,000. $30,000 potential giveaway if that was to happen. Get that. I want that number 1 trophy on my shelf, so I'll take it for that price. I'd love it.
So how are people going to enter this giveaway? Do we know that yet?
We do not. But we're going to come up with that, and we have time. It's not till Sunday, and even then, it's null and void if we don't get any through.
It's true.
If I get it through, we have 2 weeks to plan what the giveaway is going to look like, and then there'll be a lot of excitement and hype around if I'm there, and hopefully you're there with me, and we get there together. That'd be great. And then 10% of the top prize giveaway. That'd be great.
I will not be giving away any of my money.
That's okay.
As of right now. Maybe if I end up coming first, I will give some money away.
Okay.
I don't anticipate coming in first, so I don't want to be held to that. I want to make sure that I at least break even if I go.
Just got to get through first. That's all I would say, but I do think it's fun. I know the people love it. We'll come up with a strong giveaway for people watching this, Ship It Nation members, lots of people to be included, but I love doing stuff like that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully can get down there and make it happen.
Always go along with the companion piece of this show live, 9:45 a.m. Eastern on Mayo Media Network. Tambo, Hoop, and the Ship It Nation crew are going to be live, taking your questions, going over all of the information that we don't have right now on a Friday afternoon. So let's talk about Week 9. A little bit is not fun. Everyone's going to play the exact same guys.
We'll have to see. I can't wait. I want to build that lineup first because I am curious to see how we see it shake out. I haven't actually spent a lot of time doing that yet. I know who some of the most popular plays are going to be, but I haven't really seen how they all fit together, so we'll get there. But yeah, I definitely think that's the case. Only 10 games because we got a Germany game. The crazy thing is all the best teams are
on these weird games.
These weird, the Germany game and the Sunday is going to be a busy day because that game is worth watching. It's incredible. Miami, Kansas City, and then you end the day with the Buffalo-Cincinnati game, which we've been, obviously the Hamlin stuff and everything that happened last time, very unfortunate. But now to get these 2 teams to go at it again, we have a really good Sunday ahead of us.
Yeah.
Just not the main slate.
Yeah, the main slate has 9 backup quarterbacks on it.
And even in some of those backup spots, we don't know if it's still going to be those backup spots. It's we're just waiting for news on that. But a lot of them that we do know, like Minnesota, Atlanta, Heineke versus Hall. Come on, let's go.
That sounds fun.
Hey, who knows? Maybe it could be. But totals are low, too. Again, we've talked about this plenty in the past. The game total doesn't necessarily dictate the fantasy point total, so you can still pick up these points within these games. It's just how aggressive do you want to get and where do you want to find these spots?
Well, let's go to running back to kick things off and try to figure out who everyone's playing there. Kamara is the most expensive. He's also projected to be the highest owned. Yeah. And I completely understand that because when you take a look at this running back slate, it's Kamara. The other good players are in not so great matchups. Someone like Ken Walker against Baltimore, for example, who's the 3rd highest priced one. Although his projection's 5%, he might actually be a play here if you wanted to get some leverage, especially if everyone's using Lamar and the Ravens side of that game and trying to run it back with a receiver. Maybe Ken Walker is a look that you can go to. But Barkley, are they going to run him 35 times against the Raiders? I like Barkley this week, but he's coming in at like 17%. Jacobs is going to be super highly owned on the other side of the ball in that game. Chuba Hubbard appears to be the value that people are going to at $5,000. And then you have like Ramondre at 54. Like Ramondre sucks, and he's going to be one of the highest owned guys because he is one of the better plays on this slate. So I don't know what to do here.
Yeah, the Ramondre one, I guess. How many people are going to, I guess we'll get to wide receiver, but Mayo Douglas is going to be popular this week. And so how many people actually play the two of them together? That's what I want to wait and see, because sometimes, you see one thing, later in the week it becomes this thing, and now it's like, oh, they weren't going to use him as much. So Ramondre could be the leverage spot there, especially if people want to play a Mac Jones or something along those lines at the price tag. But back to the other part, Barkley, you mentioned kind of right there, a double leverage, right? When you think of it from this perspective, he's still going to be owned, but less than Kamara, who we know is going to be popular, opposite side of Jacobs, who might be the most popular at 69. Him and Kamara are going to be the most popular combo together, I think. So when you just play the guy that's squeezed between the two of them, not only on the board on DraftKings pricing, but also the opposite side of Jacobs, that would kind of make some sense. And I think what's interesting is people are using the Giants D as well.
Because they're so cheap.
Right. And so I think people will have Giants D versus Jacobs and just not care in like cash games, higher stakes stuff especially. But in general, in large field tournament, you could just add Barkley to it and do it that way. You could also play Aiden O'Connell and then use Devontae Adams and Barkley and get a stack that way, a little trio combo. That would be that's aggressive, but I kind of like it.
That's so gross. Like, I'm just trying to find like where the value is going to lie. Like points per dollar wise on Run the Sims right now, Jonathan Taylor rates out to be the best play. And I think logically that makes a lot of sense. Why does it scare me so much?
I don't know. We were talking pre-show, but I guess, there's the video last week, what was he saying he was doing? Calf raises, and then he didn't get as much usage after that, so people are maybe a little bit scared by that, but then also the fact that just how good Zach Moss has been, how much work he's been stealing, and now the matchup that you get here is very good for both guys, but it's realistically, if they're both going to get the same usage, and that, I said it last week, I like the Jonathan Taylor side better. This week, it's the same thing for me. It's scaring me just as much.
And then you have Gus Edwards, who looks like he is going to play, but it's a tougher matchup against Seattle, coming off a week where he absolutely annihilated everyone at a very good price with 3 touchdowns. But then you have this like the $5,000 range I find to be very intriguing, because you have someone like Jerome Ford, who we didn't even know if he was going to play last week, barely touched the ball in the first half. And then it was like, it's the Jerome Ford show in the second half. He's fine. And now he gets Arizona at home. He's $5,300. And no one is going to use Jerome Ford.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I was looking more at Chuba down there. He's really taken over. I don't know if you saw this was in the tidbits today, but Blackshear got more run last week than Sanders.
Yeah.
And Chuba got the majority of it. Chuba got almost 70% of the work.
I see it, but he's translating into like 21% ownership now.
Yeah, but that's why $5,000.
Like DeMercado might not play for Arizona, so that's intriguing. I don't know if I especially want to play Keontae Ingram against Cleveland's defense. That doesn't sound like a great idea.
Yeah, I'm not excited about that. We'll get to these expensive Ds are in play this week too, because there's just much
terrible quarterback play.
Yeah, and there's no high vet, like you said. Like Kamara's the highest price. After that, he's the only guy above 8K. We don't have the 9Ks, the 8,500s. When you go to wide receiver, it's like 3 or 4 guys, and after that it drops to 7,500 and below, which is essentially a mid tier. So you just have money to spend this week. That's the key.
The other thing I wanted to walk through was Dameon Pierce has not practiced yet this week. We'll see what happens on Friday. If he doesn't practice on Friday, he's probably not playing this week against Tampa. Devin Singletary, who's essentially splitting with him anyway, is $4,300, and he could be in line for 20 plus touches here. Does that just make him an auto play? Like that's your savings? You can play him, Demario Douglas, and take whoever you want.
He gets enough, well, at least a little bit through the air that you could kind of consider. And then when you put the price in there, the injury, the spot, it is a possibility for sure. They are at home, faster track. You could see it.
And Tampa's run defense, not great.
I feel like it's better than some of the other spots, but when you factor in all the other stuff that goes with it, yeah, I'd be fine with it, 4,300, especially if we get the news. We're waiting on the Pierce news, but we'll have that on Sunday morning.
Yeah, trying to unlock running back is tough because there are viable options at all the other positions, realistically. The other one was going to be in the mid $5,000 range. You have Rachaad White just sitting there at $5,600. It's a good matchup against the Texans. He's bad.
Yeah.
Or at least he appears to be bad. He looked a little bit better in the Buffalo game. But I don't know what to do with him either. Like, he seems like such a floor play that does he even have like 30-point upside?
I was just going to ask, is he actually going to get the ownership though? Because he is showing some right now.
He's showing some, but he's showing 16% I don't think
I don't believe that. That's I'm seeing the same as you, pretty much close 15ish. So okay, and then what about Bijan? Just want to mention him quickly at 6,100.
Yeah, I mean, especially like there are two factors in this as well. You have Heineke starting now. It seems like they're trying to turn the page a little bit and trying to put their best foot forward. At least you hope they are. He finally scores a rushing touchdown. That's great news. And there's no team in football that blitzes more than the Minnesota Vikings.
Right.
And now they're starting a backup quarterback. They might even ratchet that up even more. How do you beat a blitz? Quick screens, running the ball. Sounds great for Bijan to break a long one in this game because you get past that first layer of the blitz and then it's just you and a bunch of safeties and Bijan can just truck those dudes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And so the other thing to that too, I don't remember fully off the top of my mind. You're usually good with this stuff, but Heineke, when he was in Washington, didn't we see like Gibson get a lot of work in this same kind of thing? Not comparing them, just saying like a lot of these check down options. And again, now you got a guy that you're hoping can actually do the work with these checkdowns that could really take off. And at a $6,100 price tag, there's at least something enticing about that. And they are at home, favorited against a Minnesota team now with Hall at quarterback. So, still without their other pieces, definitely a spot here. And I think the Falcons defense is interesting as well, too. So you could kind of pair those up if you wanted.
Let's say you did not practice on Wednesday. I'm trying to find Curtis Samuel news because everyone wants to play Demario Douglas this week. And I completely understand it. I want to play Demario Douglas this week. It looks very like a pretty, not a sharp move, but it's like an obvious move based on his price point at $4,000. If Curtis Samuel can't go, yes, Dotson had the big game. Yes, everyone had a big game on Washington. They scored 30-plus points and Howell threw 4 touchdowns and threw almost 400 yards. But Jamison Crowder stepped in to the Curtis Samuel check down role and was great. And he's free this week.
I love that the Heineke used to play in Washington, used to check down, flips it to who's the check down guy in Washington now? Let's go to Crowder. And by the way, Samuel did not practice Thursday again after not practicing Wednesday. It's a toe, which is always anything foot related for a receiver is not going to be good either way. So don't hate that. He's 3,400 to go to Crowder.
Yeah. So you use Demario Douglas at 4,000, you use Jamison Crowder at 3,400. Then you can pay up for Barkley and Kamara if you wanted to. Man, and then you don't have to worry about Chuba Hubbard.
That's pretty enticing too. Because I think McLaurin is the guy that's got. So here's one thing I know for a fact. Like you can see it year after year in some of these tournaments that we're in, King of the Beach being an example here. But like wherever people land, like I think it was last year, everyone was on the Paris Campbell at wide receiver. Pittman goes out and destroys and has a huge game. People are in the right spots.
Just the wrong player.
The wrong players. That's what I was going to say. So if you see something like that where McLaurin gets a lot of love by the end of the week and you say, okay, but I can go down to Crowder, Samuel's out. Or if you see, who's another guy that we were talking about earlier, the guy that you mentioned. We were talking about Houston. We were talking about the Houston game. You see Collins get popular. It could be Noah Brown at 3,100. He made the tidbits this week. Some incredible stats on him around the type of defense that they're going up against this week.
And no Robert Woods again.
And he's 3,100. So it's like, again, if you do that, and then you can fill up your other spots. Again, if you expect this week to be low scoring, not just because of the totals, because literally look at the people that we're talking about here.
Yeah, we've taken a good, 25% of the best players in football off of the slate.
Yes, you're not seeing ceiling lineups pop up in your projections at 300 or 310. Like there is none of that this week, or 280 even. You're seeing 250s. And so with that said, what you're trying to do is get 4 or 5 guys. I mean, if you can get 3 or 4, you're in great shape in any tournament this week. But 4 or 5, you're really doing well if you can get 25 to 30 points. So the more we're saying these guys, it's like, yeah, but I don't trust that. But if you just make them work and it lets you get the other spots you want, if those guys come through for you, you're in a really good spot.
Yeah, well, you need those guys to come through for you just on a very smaller-ish level. Like if you play Jamison Crowder and Noah Brown and you can get 25 combined from them,
yes,
and that gives you access to all the top guys, it feels like it would be worth it. It just can those guys actually get there? This we don't know.
Can I ask you one quick question?
Let's hear it.
I know you would say something else, but the quarterback version of that exact mini stack, Hal versus Mac Jones. Do you have an opinion on that?
I'd rather play Hal.
Yeah, just continuously good after last week.
It's not even continuously good. It's always the spot, right? So they're 3.5-point dogs to the Patriots. I don't know what the weather is going to be like in that game. I haven't looked at that yet. Patriots D just is okay at this point because they've sustained so many injuries. I would feel like the Patriots, if they do play with a lead, they are going to run the ball a ton. I don't see where the upside is for Mac Jones. And the good thing about Washington is we saw even last week against Philly, and maybe they were put into a different position knowing that Philly was going to be able to score points on them. So they felt like we're in a boat race here.
Yeah.
First one to 45 wins. But Eric Bieniemy, since he's taken over, it's just like, hey, Sam Howell, you're passing. We're not running. We can't run the ball. We're going to throw. And he keeps averaging like 40-something pass attempts a game.
Actually like that. You just sparked another thing I saw this week that you reminded me of now that you said that. He also, after taking 1 million sacks, 100 maybe, literally.
Ball out quicker.
Getting the ball out quicker. Saw that
That's
one.
1 week.
2 weeks, actually.
No,
2
it
weeks
didn't
in a
really
row
work
now.
against the Giants when I played him.
No, but 2 weeks in a row he's been doing it. So, yeah, you mentioned it, but 52, 42, 51, 41, 4 of his last 5 games, that's his attempts. So, again, that's like if you can get a quarterback with somebody, people using Demario Douglas, but they're just throwing him in there to make things work. But it ends up being that you need to be in that spot with it.
You know who you need to play? You need to play Howell, Jamison Crowder, and Patriots D. There you go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, Patriots D going to be popular this week too, maybe.
Probably should be. A.J. Brown is shaping up to be the most popular wide receiver.
Yeah.
$8,600. People feel like that's if they want to spend up, that's where they want to spend up. So lock in Goddard for 3 touchdowns.
I just selected him on here.
I'll show you the lineup that I built first run for King of the Beach. I'll put it up on the screen.
Okay.
It's probably not the one I'm going to stick with, but it was like the first thought that popped into my mind. I built it on Monday evening.
That's the problem with one lineup. It's so you get there.
Yeah, but I do this every week though. I play one lineup in bigger contests.
Yeah.
So I'm used to trying to build like this.
I meant more. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like the FOMO factor is not as big for you because you're used to also looking at something and changing it and not caring that you had it before or not. You're like, I'm going with what was the best for me at a good time Sunday when you should, and say I've got all the information now. I'm going to go forward. I think that's better. I think a lot of people should think like that because they don't. They're like, oh, but I had it on Monday. Well, then submit both.
Yeah.
Put that lineup in and actually lock it in on Monday. Call that your Monday motivation lineup or whatever. And then when you get to Sunday, put in your real one and see how they do over the season.
So A.J. Brown, Demario Douglas, Nico Collins, CeeDee Lamb, Chris Olave. That's what I'm seeing as like the top in terms of projected ownership right now. Zay Flowers, McLaurin, Thielen. People giving Tank Dell another shot here. Josh Downs was downgraded this week, so Michael Pittman's might crack double-digit ownership just because it seems like you play Thielen, you play Pittman, you go on your way. That might be like a mini stack in that game. Wendell is getting some love again with Daniel Jones back and being such a cheap price. I don't love that. I've played Wendell in the past, but he's always like, you kind of bring this up. I'd rather go to DraftKings Sportsbook, go to alternate reception total and be like, Wendell over 7 catches. Because he might be like 7 for 29 and no touchdowns. It's like, oh, yeah, thanks, Wendell.
And nothing huge for DraftKings, but a great bet that you end up making money on. Yeah, I could see that. Also, you mentioned the Tank Dell thing. This is really starting to get Noah Brown in my head. Like, Tank Dell is popular, so is Schultz. And it's just going to be the guy that's the cheapest on the wide receiver side.
I mean, that's how we played when we were playing. When I kept getting Houston wrong and you kept getting Houston right earlier on in the season, like that was almost your exact logic. Like how you got to Tank Dell in the big games. Like, well, he's the cheapest one. Just play him.
Yeah, it just you see it so often, right? That's why. And once you play this game long enough, you start to pick up on little things, and it's just, oh, how would you have got to him? Well, that's exactly how I just thought about him. And then obviously the tidbits had these little nuggets on him that made him sound pretty good anyway. And then he's a cheap price tag, so you just see all of that and put it together, and it kind of makes sense. It looks like McLaurin is getting similar love that we just were mentioning earlier as well.
Yeah, of the expensive receivers, there's no better points per dollar option than Thielen, which I found surprising. And he's not, like, he's going to be owned, obviously, but he's not going to be, like, super highly owned.
Right.
Because A.J. Brown is sucking up all that love at the top.
It's hilarious, though. I said this earlier on the show this week, but Thielen, so when he's cheap, right? Everyone's like, it's blasphemy. This guy should be 8K. It's unreal.
And then when he's 8K, no one wants to play
He gets to 7,500. He's still not even hit 8K yet. And people are like, terrible price. How did he get there? This makes no sense that Thielen's so expensive now.
And I played Thielen last week. I forget what he ended up doing. Like, he was fine. But when they got in the red zone, they tried to like run the ball 4 straight times, and that didn't work because their offensive line is absolutely putrid. And Thielen like dropped 2 touchdowns in that game.
Yeah,
it's kind of nice that he didn't catch them for this week because it feels like, you know, if he scores a touchdown last week and scores 30 DraftKings points, his price goes up to 8,000 and everyone wants to play him. Now he's 7,500 and no one wants to play him.
Do you think people actually play Chuba? So back to my original question earlier on Rashad White, and we were talking about him. You think people actually play Chuba at 5K? Yeah. So this is definitely a spot. Again, same thing. It's just one of those things. I know you got to pay more for it.
Wait till, because my original run of that first lineup, you'll see what it ended up being, but it had Chuba and Thielen in it.
Yeah, perfect. Because, but here's the thing. You asked what he did last week. So 11 targets, catches 8 of them for 72. Ton of red zone work still, just didn't get there with it. And you look at it, he had 15. Then before that was 31, 30, 15, 34, 20. Like he's 15 points plus.
Every week.
And
he's their only option. That's good.
Yeah, we keep trying to make Mingo work.
Yeah,
and
like
all that
I'll try to make Mingo happen. I'm fine with that because points per dollar wise, he's number 4 on the list.
Okay.
So you have Thielen's number 6, Mingo's number 4. Number 1 and 3 are both Patriots. It's Demario Douglas and Juju. Now, I can get to Demario Douglas. I am not playing Juju. He sucks.
Hey, didn't he just get a touchdown?
He
last
did,
week?
and did still barely score DraftKings.
I think that was the funny part of last night's touchdown with Deontay Johnson scoring his first one since Big Ben. But people were like, Juju got a touchdown last week before, still got a touchdown before, came back and got a touchdown before Deontay Johnson did. But yeah, that is a tough click to go to Juju this week.
Yeah, I flamed out on props last night. First time I went, I played the 3-banger same game parlay, just 0 for 3. Just play the opposite, you would have printed money. Will Levis. I thought Will Levis, not that he was going to run like RPOs or anything like that, but I thought with the amount of pressure that Pittsburgh was going to generate that he would run more. Instead, he just stood there, took it, and made some nice passes.
Some of them were, I was just going to say, you called it out, and it was true. It was wild that he was just standing there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you're about to get crushed. But then he would just let it fly, and it was solid. Like some really good ones down the sideline. He almost got Burks killed at the end, but besides that, good news that he's safe and healthy. But man, that was wild, the amount of time he was spending in the pocket, just standing there hanging onto the ball.
Yeah, the other few guys that are popping up points per dollar wise in terms of receivers, Wendale's number 2. 3.18 points per dollar. His base projection's 11 points. So
can you build a Daniel Jones stack that costs more than like 10K? It feels like it's like,
unless you use Barkley, no.
yeah, I mean, without Barkley, obviously, it just feels like you could double stack him and run it back for like 15K or less. It's just nuts.
Your guy Noah Brown is number 5 on that list. But of like receivers you might not even think about using right now, Amari Cooper rates out really well, which I was surprised about. Michael Thomas rates out really well, and so does Terry McLaurin and Tank Dell.
That was another guy last year, Amari Cooper. Everyone played DPJ, speaking of him, because he
just
got
traded.
Just got traded. But he was super popular last year in the King of the Beach round 1. And Amari Cooper just dusted him for like, it was like 30-something points total.
And we don't even know if let's say you were to play Amari Cooper, you decided like no one's playing Amari Cooper. The projections say that he's a really good play this week against Arizona. Who would you want playing quarterback for Cleveland?
Oh, God.
Would you want PJ Walker, who's not hurt but sucks, or Deshaun Watson, who might not be able to throw?
That's why it sucks, because it's just impossible to figure out. Probably still Deshaun, but it's not ideal.
Tight ends, Jake Ferguson rates out the best points per dollar, and I assume he's going to garner some ownership. Not a ton of ownership, like 6, 7, 8%.
I was going to say, I don't see the ownership coming with that as much, which is interesting because if you want to get that Hurts stack going, most want to go to Goddard in the Hurts stack because you can't afford A.J. Brown and Devon.
You technically could on this slate. Like, let's say Singletary opens up. You could play Hurts, Goddard, and A.J. Brown with someone on Dallas.
Oh, you can afford that. I said you can't afford Brown and Smith with Hurts. It's expensive.
You could.
Oh, sorry. Obviously, you can afford whatever you want. Your lineup's going to be shit. I'm saying that's where people are. I know what people are building like, which is what I care about and talk about. Is that they're going to go with Hurts, probably A.J. Brown by the ownership, and then get their third guy being Goddard in there, and then run it back with somebody on Dallas. Take your pick, whether it's Gallup, Cooks. I don't know if they'll fit Lamb either because it doesn't fit the other side.
So in the ultimate flop lag play in a bad matchup, is this the week that Tony Pollard crushes dreams?
Always.
40 points.
Yeah. Good news about that. If you play Jacobs at 6,900.
That's the swap.
If you're ahead, just leave Jacobs. Make them find Pollard to get you because I don't want to play that catch-up game. But if you're behind, you have to swap, and you have to hope that leverages that game and just changes how it's going to play out, and that Pollard does find the box twice.
Yeah, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns or something like that. Catches a bunch along the way.
What's stupid is that Pollard's about to probably go on a run, so it would be the time to catch him early. His week 10 to 13 schedule is insanely good.
Well, it's funny too because I mean, there's a lot of the talk is about season-long fantasy, and like I think I had him rated as the number 3 running back coming into the year, and I think he's 20th in points per game. Mm-hmm. But he hasn't been bad. It just, as I forget who was it that pointed it out on Twitter, Dallas just plays weird games. They're either up by 30 or down by 30, which is just not conducive to Tony Pollard.
Yeah, it's definitely true. And so we've seen crazier stuff happen, right? We saw Zach Moss bust open a huge game on Jonathan Taylor's returning game, getting the contract against Tennessee when all the chalk busted against Tennessee every week, which I don't know why we kept playing it, but that's what happened. Zach Moss comes in and just dusts them and has a huge game. This could be what you see out of Pollard, regardless of how tough this matchup is.
So tight ends overall, in terms of ownership, it's Andrews right around 13%. Schultz, as you mentioned, Trey McBride again at $3,700. Njoku on the other side of the ball. He's practicing. He's going to play. Dallas Goedert, Hawkinson. All those guys are right around like 10%.
Yeah.
And then it's into Ferguson, Logan Thomas, Kate Otten. Then we're down to like Pitts and Kmet and just absolute goobers.
I think I like Kate Otten, and we didn't talk about that stack yet, but I definitely think there's opportunity in that one too. Yeah. Especially, I'm really going to like it if this Singletary play becomes a thing.
I mean, if Samuel sits out, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to do it. Maybe we can build these out, but like Howell, Crowder, Thomas. Now I've saved all my money. DeMario Douglas. And give me the all pros at my other position.
I'm telling you, that's like a viable thing. That's why I asked what side. And then you reminded me of the Howell thing. So I'm just thinking of it from that perspective. And then Thomas fits it just as well. And Thomas is also 3,500 when McBride, Njoku, Schultz, all those guys are right there above him.
Lastly, we have defenses before we get into some of the builds. The Giants are projected to be the highest owned at $2,300 against Aiden O'Connell, around like 10 to 15%, somewhere in there. Then the Patriots, as you mentioned, Packers, Falcons, Saints would be up next. But when we're talking about Falcons and Saints, we're talking 5%.
Yeah, so and also like something has to break here. The Giants, and I mean, people will in higher stakes play the Giants and Jacobs because it doesn't matter. But you usually don't see where Jacobs is 20 to 25%, even higher in the high stakes, smaller field stuff, and then the Giants stay that high as well. So that is interesting. I know that they're only 2,300, and that makes it all work, but we'll have to see what ends up happening.
If we're talking about trying to get players that score like 20-something points, what about Browns D against Arizona and Clayton Tune?
Yeah, I was hoping we would get there, actually, because I think more people are going to be more inclined to click on the Saints against Chicago, which we understand just as much.
I have a big bet on that game.
And we'll have Kamara in the lineup, so I see why that works too, and people just see it and say it's a natural correlation. But man, the Arizona. Here's the thing about this spot. Cleveland defense has already been better anyway than the Saints. Second of all, don't you think they're just going to let Tune go? Like, we always say this, but they should just let him sling it. Like, Kyler Murray's coming back. Who cares? See what he's got.
I don't know if they're going to do that or not.
I think you have to. I think it's a terrible decision if they don't. You literally have him for one game. And by the way, there was like a tidbit that came out the other night that was like, there's still a chance. I don't think it's going to happen because they announced Tune early, and then there was like a nugget that came back. I don't know if we can see it here. I'll look it up on my end. But Kyler Murray is 5,400. I'm not going there. I'm just saying this was a thing that was brought up. Encouraging updates for him. Kyler Murray just fired up. Yeah, just 22 hours ago. Jonathan Gannon says Kyler Murray is fired up about potentially playing in Week 9.
Okay, good for him.
We'll wait and see. More news has to come out. But my point would be, if he doesn't play, I would just think that they let Tune just roll. And so then I want Cleveland to just tee off on that versus we already know what Bagent is. And it's been fine. Like, it's not great, but I'm saying I just don't see it being where he's going to make as many mistakes as this other guy that I could just see him go, I could see Cleveland go big here. So definitely don't hate that.
Tyson Bagent. Yeah, the bet that I have in, I had it the moment it dropped, was Tyson Bagent under 14.5 rushing yards.
Yeah.
That's just a big bet that I made. Like, the prop sniper flagged it immediately, like, this number's off. I think it's down to 11 now. All right.
I don't know what he's been doing thus far on the ground. I don't really
he was 3 for 24 against Vegas, and he was 4 for -1 against the Chargers. He was 2 for 4 against Minnesota. It just seemed like because he had the one game where he did take off and broke a big run. The Chargers bring pressure, and he did nothing with that. Well, the Saints don't bring pressure, weirdly enough. They've been one of the lowest pressure rate teams in the league.
I would just expect him to do more on the ground with pressure coming at him, like where he has to scramble and get out of it. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing, and he didn't do anything in that spot, so it's like he's not really running that much anyway.
Let's move to the optimal lineup. I have punched it in on the screen for you up there. Shout out Run the Sims for this one. And the big question comes down to Jalen Hurts. I think he's $8,000. He is the quarterback in this lineup. Is he going to run this week?
Don't think so. Hasn't yet.
And that's more of a problem against Dallas than it was against Washington. Like, are you just going to sit there and pick apart Dallas's defense?
I think so.
Okay.
I think that was another thing that came up too, Pat, was that this Dallas team and this D and everything. First of all, the D got worse. Second of all, they haven't really played anybody. That's one of the other things. Like, you go look at their schedule this season so far.
So the lineup is Hurts, with Bijan and Taylor at running back, Wendell Robinson, Adam Thielen, and Demario Douglas, Trey McBride at tight end, Saquon as the flex, and Patriots D at $2,900. Now, there's a very easy pivot off of this because you have both Wendell Robinson and Saquon Barkley in this lineup. I don't know how many giants you want to throw in, but you can move Barkley into Kamara pretty easily. I think at least. It's $200, and then you just drop down to Rams D against Jordan Love, who I actually do like this week. It's not like their defense is missing Matt Stafford. They still have Aaron Donald. That's going to be fine against Jordan Love, who sucks.
I think at this point, if you're playing Hurts, you want to stack him. So I'd be trying to get him in over somebody else there. But it depends because you're playing two balanced running backs in this lineup.
Yeah.
As well with Bijan and Taylor at the top.
Let's throw in A.J. Brown, and then we can move down to... we can't even move down to Giants D. Damn it. That means we can move off of... Where can we save some money here? We can drop Wendell down to Noah Brown. Noah Brown at 31. There we go. That works. So now we have A.J. Brown with Hurts, and we have Noah Brown in instead of Wendell Robinson, which I don't think is the end of the world here, if that's the way that you wanted to play it.
Right. Yeah. Let's convert the build to what we think people are actually playing.
Okay.
Because I think you
Hurts and Brown.
Yeah, I think for sure Kamara and Jacobs is where I would start.
All right. So you want to start Kamara Jacobs?
Yeah.
Because who do you think is the loser quarterback that is going to get the most attention? Kamara Jacobs, Giants D to save the money, and Demario Douglas.
It feels like Howell, I guess. Maybe. Just because people see, Kamara Jacobs, Demario Douglas for sure. Sorry to cut you off. That was definitely a starting point.
Quarterback ownership percentage I'm seeing right now: Hurts, Lamar, Dak, Baker, Stroud, Daniel Jones.
The Baker Stroud game could be a spot that you see people go, but what's weird is besides Schultz, I don't really see, I guess Schultz.
Well, Collins rated out really highly in terms of ownership.
So Baker, Collins, Schultz, maybe?
Baker, Collins.
No, because then they're not using the other side. It would have to been it could be Baker, but Otten's not getting the love either. So do you think people are going to play Bellinger?
No.
Just because the Waller stuff?
Waller sucked anyway. Now we're going to get worse Waller?
Yeah, so what's the other guy, though, behind? There's another guy there that's out, too. God, I forget his name, but anyway, Cager.
Sure.
Cager.
Lawrence Cager.
Cager, the Rager. You've talked about him before. He's going to be out as well, I believe, so it is just Bellinger. But I haven't seen him pop up on any new ownership stuff to pop in. So
we have Kamara, Jacobs, Douglas, and Giants D. That gives us $5,700, but we've already used a defense, the cheapest defense, on the go here. So what do we do now?
Well, I'm just thinking backwards, reverse engineer it. If people are playing New England D, it's probably not Howell, so we're not going to use Howell.
Okay.
But people probably want a piece of them, so is it McLaurin that you see people using?
I mean, points per dollar wise, that would actually, Story would check out on that. Because
I think you could just
rates out pretty highly.
Put him in for now just to see what this looks like. So McLaurin. I want to see how close this gets to the optimal too.
How much is Nico Collins? Nico Collins is 5,800. Are you sure? Are we sure it's not going to be Stroud, Nico Collins?
I'm fine with that. I think it could be that.
Stroud, Nico Collins. And this also gets us away. Because I think if Dameon Pierce is ruled out, I think this throws a big wrench into what people do with this game. Because I think Singletary is just the play then.
Mm-hmm. At 4,300, yeah, we just talked about it. He was already getting half the work. So
I mean, we should probably throw Chuba Hubbard into this too, because he's just rating out really highly. People are using him. He's $5,000, and now that gives us 5,800 for a wide receiver and a tight end.
So who do we? Oh yeah, Hubbard.
And then that gives us Schultz at 42, and it gives us 7,500, and that gives you Thielen. You have Thielen and Hubbard in this lineup, but
that worked. Just I got my King of the Beach ticket on that. The second one, the one you got together.
I played both those guys in my King of the Beach ticket, Thielen and Chuba Hubbard.
So Collins, Thielen,
Schultz, and Hubbard.
Tight end Schultz, who's very popular, right?
Yeah. And goes with Stroud and
this is 1 point away from your optimal. And so this is why I like looking at these builds, and then we can start on ours. But just to say, you brought up the optimal, we brought up the version we think people are building for these tournaments, and now we can look and see how to attack this. So you've got Stroud, Collins, Schultz, No Indy guy in this, but we've got Jacobs, Kamara, the Giants D. I know it's against Jacobs, but people won't worry about that. The 2 Carolina guys, and then Douglas, who just fits in. So who would be the pieces that you'd want to pull from this that you're like, I don't really try. Like, I could see that going bad, or switch it out. What are you thinking?
I mean, if you wanted to make this cheaper and upgrade, you can take Collins out and play Noah Brown.
For sure, that. Yeah.
So we still have a triple. And then you can turn DeMario Douglas. You can't turn him into Mike Evans. You can't turn him into Godwin. That's what I was thinking about doing, that if we're going to play these 3 Texans guys and we don't have...
But I think you can do something like real quick here just to show you. Take out Hubbard because you liked Thielen.
I was going to say we turn Schultz into Otten, and then you can turn Collins into Evans. And then you still have $600 left to get back up to Patriots D if you wanted to.
Okay, let me see this one. Yeah, because... I was looking at something different.
Stroud and Noah Brown, just those 2 by themselves with Mike Evans and Otten. You could turn, at this point, you could turn Stroud into Baker if you wanted to.
I think that's what you got to do, and he's popular too.
Yeah,
so what's that?
And that saves you another $1,000.
So Schultz goes to Otten.
And then if you drop Patriots D back down, and like I said, I like Rams D as sort of like an in-between of the popular plays. And then you can turn Hubbard into Olave, Lockett, Bijan, Amari Cooper, one of those guys.
Well, you need to find $100 because Jonathan Taylor versus Thielen will be popular anyway, if people are going with that secondary stack.
All right, so we just take Rams out and play. It's Derek Carr, play Bears D. They have Montez Sweat now. They're unbelievable, I hear.
Triple stack Baker.
Triple stack Baker with Noah Brown coming back. You save basically all your money, and you do get Mike Evans, who's been good. He's averaging almost 17 DraftKings points a game.
Yeah, see, this is the type of lineup I'm talking about, Pat. If you can get Kamara, Jacobs to do their job, Thielen to get his 20+, Jonathan Taylor, and Mike Evans. You got 5 potential guys there that can score 25+.
And then hopefully Baker can put up 20 points.
And will Baker be a part of the Evans one? So you're like, and Baker boosts Otten too. If Otten and Evans score, Baker's one of these guys now that's up there because there's his points coming in. So... yeah, I actually don't hate a build like that. I don't know what it would be exactly. I had one here earlier. I'm just going to pull it up to see. So it's very close. It's 3v3. You pulled it, so it doesn't matter.
No, I can easily put it back up.
So I think if you changed Thielen, Noah Brown, and the Bears D, you can go Saints D.
Saints D.
And then Terry McLaurin and Nico Collins.
No.
What do I have different than Jacobs? You got the same. Nico Collins, Terry.
Jonathan Taylor is still in here. Do we have to drop Jonathan Taylor?
Yes. What does he land us on?
DeMario Douglas.
Douglas. Yeah, it's a 2 running back lineup.
Yeah, that works. Mayfield, Evans, Otten with Collins on the bring back.
Secondary is McLaurin and Douglas, the 2 running back plays that everyone's going to play in the defense with Kamara. And you could find $100 if you wanted to get to Cleveland. I do like Cleveland better, but in this lineup, at least it's fine.
Well, you can finagle this around a little bit. Like, if you don't want Collins as your bring back, I don't want to say it's safe to say this, but I do think that Singletary is going to be a play here. Plug him in at flex. And then you can upgrade Saints D to Browns D, and then you have $5,400 for a receiver. Hollywood Brown against Cleveland. I mean, Tank Dell. You can just play Tank Dell instead.
So if you go this way, Jacobs
and overload
and
if you wanted
Kamara.
to.
You like Evans or Godwin here?
I think Evans is just a safer bet to score a touchdown always.
The other thing too is like, what if you just went Baker and Cade Otton with your Singletary, and then you get access to that Dallas Philly game?
What access do you get to the Dallas Philly game?
Well, I think you can pretty easily get Brown and Lamb almost, can't you?
No.
Let me see.
Not
here.
pretty easily. Let's see. Brown.
Douglas, 1,700. You're a little bit short, so you have to go off Brown or Lamb.
Let's see. You can play Brown and Lamb, and then you drop Brown's D to Giants D, and then you have 3,400 for Jamison Crowder. Boop.
On the instead of the opposite side of Crowder, cheap wide receiver is what's his name is
DeMario Douglas.
Douglas. So what's this one like? It's only 3 points off the
and that's with Singletary in it.
Yep.
Is your projection showing Pierce out or in?
Not yet.
All right, so it would actually probably be better for Singletary if Pierce is ruled out.
Yeah. And so again, Otton is just there, but Baker could do different things, and whoever you throw, you just, instead of trying to pick who ends up being Baker's guys.
Yeah, you just think that Baker has a good game. Otton's going to score 10 points or something.
But now you're like, okay, I don't know what people would like better. Maybe the previous version had like 5 guys if you include Thielen, Evans, Kamara, Jacobs, and there was one other guy in that lineup that we liked. I forget. But anyway, this one only really has Jacobs, Kamara, A.J. Brown, Lamb, and then it gets...
Yeah, but
dicey, but at least they're connected.
But you're also hoping that Singletary becomes one of these guys that can put up 20 points just because of the opportunity.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you at least have a good value in here, and you don't care that you have him because you already have everything else that goes with it. So
yeah, like if you have Singletary at $4,300 versus Demario Douglas at $4,000. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't want to bet my life that Singletary without Pierce would score more points more of the time, but like it would have to be the running back with 20 opportunities versus a receiver with who knows. Even if he gets 8 targets in the game, Singletary probably scores more points.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how that ends up shaking out. I don't like this lineup, by the way. I just don't want to play Baker, is the issue.
Right.
So I'll show you the lineup that I built to kick things off. There it is. Bryce Young.
All right, let's see this one. So Bryce Young,
Kamara and Barkley, Thielen and Pittman, Mingo, Goddard, Demario Douglas, and Ramsey.
So Demario Douglas, Mingo, Thielen. So there's your triple stack. Who was your tight end?
Goddard.
Goddard, I like it.
I actually don't have any Texans here, and I can probably adjust it. I could play
also
Singletary with Giants D in this spot too. That would actually work. Instead of Douglas and Ramsey, Singletary in the flex and Giants D is the same amount of money. This was just me being terrified of playing Jonathan Taylor, is what this lineup is. Instead, I played Michael Pittman.
Yeah, and we got news last night, or it was yesterday, I guess, downgraded at practice was Josh Downs, who's been awesome. And now you've got the guy coming off of a 13-target game. And also Pittman, 18, 16, 23. Like his last 3 have been solid for DraftKings scoring as well. And if you don't want to play those running backs, that would be the way to get access here.
Yeah, there's also a world where you take Barkley out of this and play Jacobs or play Bijan Robinson, and then I don't need to play Mingo anymore.
Yeah, with these lineups, this is a nice lineup. You need the stack to get there for you because you've got the same other guys that everyone else, like, you know what I mean? You've got the Camaras, the Barkleys, you don't have Jacobs, which is good, maybe the opposite side of that, but I think what most people are going to be doing is using Douglas and, assuming this happens, Singletary to make everything else work.
Yeah.
So having a guy like Mingo instead of Singletary right now makes sense because he also fits. You have Bryce Young, so he just brings it along and goes with that. But that is where I think people are looking. Also, for example, in this lineup, what's your choice here? Samuel gets ruled out. You can just sub Mingo to Samuel or to Crowder.
Crowder, yeah, and open it up
and just say, I'll just play Bryce Young, Thielen, leave it at that. I have Pittman on the other side. If then you don't have to worry about Mingo.
Well, the other part of this too was like it's not that I love Goddard this week. It's just that's where I landed. Because I don't have any super strong idea of what's going to happen at tight end. Mm-hmm. So I just took a guy who's good in a game that everyone wants a piece of, likely to be, Devonta Smith is going to be the piece that people don't use, or maybe DeAndre Swift, but it's going to be Hurts and A.J. Brown, then everyone else from the Eagles side. That even if he does garner 9-10% ownership, I still feel like I'm on a little bit of an island with Goddard, and I do get some access to that game.
Yeah, the thing about this is this is a heavy afternoon lineup as well.
Yeah, full of late swaps.
So if like the Rams defense gets there for you, the Crowder Douglas plays get there for you, you'd have opportunity. And then Kamara, like if all those already get there, what do you do? Because then do you swap? Because it already looks pretty good on paper, and there's nothing that says you have to swap. But it's like you have so many guys in the afternoon. There would be ways to flip it around if you take your afternoon pieces out.
Let's try that. Let's take out the afternoon pieces. I'd still kind of want to rock with Thielen, but if I just wanted to like go onto chalk here, could I play Hurts?
So what are we taking out exactly?
I just took Bryce Young out. I took Bryce Young out. I took Barkley out.
And you're going to leave Goddard in as well for now?
I don't
see if you can get Hurts in. Yeah.
Let's see if I can get A.J. Brown in with... The problem becomes the running back that you can use in this spot because it's mighty difficult. So who's a late tight end that I can use?
Ferguson?
Yeah, I guess Ferguson would be the guy, right?
Not that much cheaper, but at least something.
Somewhat cheaper. This becomes a problem because now I don't have enough for a running back. So I wouldn't be able to do Brown. So maybe I keep Goddard in.
IndyCar. I can see. What about this? Oh, no, this isn't
Goddard, and then I can use Jacobs. And then I have 47 for a receiver from the late if I want to continue going to the late.
It's just going to be so hard to tell, though, because your lineup was already set up this way for a reason. It's almost like you have a decent lineup in there. Do you even want to swap when... And the other thing is, if you are behind, if those chalk plays don't get there early, you basically want to be on this. I think it's more of you build a Dallas-Philly lineup. If everything in the morning goes well, you just stick with the good spot if you like it and say Dallas-Philly's great. But if you don't have it, there's an easy way to get from Dallas-Philly over to the Bryce stack and then using Pollard, like a Pollard Goddard. Use your Bryce Young with your Thielen. Like that's kind of how I would look at doing it.
So let's do that. Let's build out the Hurts stack because there's 3 late games: Indy and Carolina, Giants and Vegas, Dallas and Philly. I think that we can say for scoring opportunity, I actually kind of think there's going to be more points in Indy and Carolina. Indy gives up like 35 points a week.
Yeah.
Like they're a terrible defense.
It's definitely possible. I mean, people are just looking at the total, and because the slate sucks, they see the 3-point total. But again, the price matters too. You got a lot of guys in the Indy-Carolina game that are cheap, and if they're going to be putting up similar points, they're going to put up a lot of fantasy points and more point per dollar versus what happens in the other game if it just does the normal total while all those guys are expensive.
Hurts, A.J. Brown. Let's try to rebuild this out.
Do you want Ferguson or Goddard if people are using the piece in this game to close it out?
I don't know. Do we just say screw it and use CeeDee Lamb and then figure out the rest? We know the value, guys.
Yeah, it's true.
So
let's still at that. Yeah, let's
just start with Lamb. And that means like Giants D is now in the mix. That means DeMario Douglas is now in the mix.
We have to do it that way to see how it shakes out. Yeah.
And then that means Singletary is in the mix. So it's Douglas and Singletary. Now we're back up to 4,800 for another running back, a tight end, and a flex. Who is the best of like the loser tight ends that we want to play? What's the cheapest tight end? Is it Logan Thomas? Or is it Kate Otten? Or just play McBride?
Maybe McBride for this lineup. Let's do that.
Would you rather play McBride or Njoku for $100 more in a much better matchup on the other side of the ball?
Njoku.
Okay, so we'll play Njoku. Now we're up to 54. Do we have another flex that's cheap? Because we're at $5,400.
Singletary, Brown,
we could use Chuba Hubbard in this lineup.
Njoku, Giants. Oh, I pressed New England by accident instead of New York.
So you could do Chuba Hubbard and a $5,700, I think. $5,800. That could get you Nico Collins if you wanted to. That could get you Zach Moss or Zay Flowers.
Do we have Nico Collins money?
We do have Nico. If we
just use Nico Collins. Close this out for a second.
All right, and then Chuba Hubbard at $5,000.
Yes,
we have the world's worst running backs in this lineup.
But
Singletary, Hubbard.
Well, I was going to say, but this gives us late swap options now, right? So this is the example. So I'll save this for a second. So now, who's in the morning in this lineup? Singletary, Douglas, Collins, Njoku?
Yes. So what we'd want to do is move Nico Collins into that CeeDee Lamb spot if we were actually...
So pull all your afternoon guys for a second.
One second. I just want to move Collins into a receiver, and then we'll take out all of our afternoon guys.
Yeah, so we're taking out Brown, taking out Lamb.
So it's Singletary, Nico Collins, who are on the same team, DeMario Douglas, and Njoku.
Okay, so if these guys go well for you... I know this is not true because like some people say, but I like the Indy Carolina game better. So then you should stick with it. I'm just saying for you and like what we have talked about pre-show and people probably like hearing through this thought process is like, if you wanted to get the chalk in there, we just had it. That was the way to go. You can play the Dallas Philly game. You've got some small pieces from the other games. If things went bad, I think your starting point here is Pollard.
I was going to say Young and Pollard or Minshew.
No, it's Young. It's Young and Pollard. You got it.
It's Young Pollard.
So let's just see what this looks like. So Young,
Pollard,
and we should have
money for
Thielen money.
Thielen, Barkley, and Giants defense. I think works.
Thielen, Barkley, and 4,800. We've got a lot of money left over.
Thielen. Well, I mean, at that point, the money's irrelevant, right?
Yeah, but I would still try and upgrade if I could.
If you could. So the best defense available on the late slate is. I mean, do you just play? We have no Eagles in this lineup. Do you just over leverage and just say Pollard and Cowboys D?
You could do that, yeah. Man, I thought you'd be able to do more with it. That's the challenge, right? You do want to look ahead at these kind of things because you don't. It all makes sense, like you said. And you're just trying to leverage. The money doesn't matter at all. See it all the time. People just leave 3,000 on the table if it means a chance to find your way in and to pass the field. Who gives a shit? It's just 30 points is 30 points. Doesn't matter where the money comes from.
Well, the other way to do this too, you could just play Dak instead of Bryce Young, and then downgrade Cowboys D. You play Dak with Pollard.
So what's a spot there you could do?
Dak with Pollard, then you downgrade Cowboys D to Colts D if you want to, against Barkley or against Thielen and against Bryce Young.
Yeah. Either way, the good news is you would have options that people aren't nearly on as much, at least.
Yeah, because Hurts is going to be the popular side of that build.
And what happens if you go with Jacobs but different everywhere else? Does that get you anything?
Like you use Jacobs instead of Barkley?
Yeah, you use like man, I don't see much else with it. I think you had it. I think the way you had it was probably the way to do it. Yeah, I don't see anything else with it that stands out.
Yeah, and you didn't have to use Singletary and Nico Collins. You could have found Bijan Robinson as a running back in that spot if you wanted to.
Definitely true as well is that the Collins part, without just going back and redoing the whole thing, is you could make that, if you didn't like this, if this was your exercise, you could go back and make it so that you say, okay, who does Collins need to be to make that work? Where I like the original, but I also have delayed.
And as it turns out, we had money.
Yeah. So Collins, that's the difference.
Yeah. Okay. So Bryce Young lineups were my first instinct because of how cheap it was. My second instinct this week was Derek Carr against the Bears.
Okay.
Just say, you know what? You looked pretty good last week going deep. I don't think anyone wants to use Olave anymore.
Definitely not. He's a big leverage opportunity here for sure with him. And Derek Carr is 3 weeks in a row now cracking 20.
So Carr and Olave.
Okay.
Just that's all I want to play from that game. I mean, I want to play Kamara, but now we don't have to necessarily. We can play him with
in this one, maybe not, but just to say it, yeah, you said it perfectly. There's like you could. That's another way. If people are like naturally going to say, "Oh, I'm going to leverage all this Kamara ownership and just play Carr and Olave," yes, awesome, and it works. 100% makes sense. I will see that in a lot of places, but you can also just play with Kamara by getting different with him by playing
Derek
Carr and somebody else. It doesn't have to be Olave. It could be Thomas. Could be something along those lines.
So how do we fill out the rest of this lineup, do you think? Do we go just straight back up to...
I don't even think you need a run back. I think you just start...
No, I'm not using anyone on
I was going to say just fill it out with what you want. So who do you like?
Do we do...
You do Barkley, I think, because he's the leverage to everything we talked about. Yeah.
What do you have any interest in Ken Walker?
Not right now.
Okay.
I guess that's, your point is valid on it, but... I would probably lean to Pollard underneath before Walker above if we're going against Jacobs.
Let's not use Barkley in this spot necessarily.
I think it's like the perfect spot though.
Okay.
Because you're saying I don't want Kamara, so you squeeze him out with.
Here's the problem. I do want Kamara.
Okay. So we can
well, not necessarily in this lineup, but like I do. That was my biggest hesitation on the Derek Carr lineups was, and not to say that you can't play them both together. Kamara might smash through the air like he normally does, and then Carr comes along with him on that ride. Yeah. And then you always have to worry about Taysom Hill. This is what I think is depressing Carr's ownership a little bit in a really nice spot. The funny thing, and why I think Kamara and Carr work well together this week, is the Bears' run defense is like pretty good. They limit running backs on the ground. They give up everything to running backs through the air.
Right. And this is the
so
old...
hopefully that stops Taysom.
Yeah, this is the old Drew Brees thing. Like Drew Brees, noodle arm, or people make fun of him. He's old, he sucks. It's all this thing, small hands, can't see, whatever they want to call him. He would just flip it to Kamara or flip it to Michael Thomas when he was in his prime, and they would do all the work after the catch. And this is a prime spot to do that. So
what if we go Carr, Barkley, Kamara, or Carr, Bijan, Robinson, Kamara?
I like the Bijan one if you're going to play two running backs against defenses that they can just get there.
Yeah.
On the checkdowns and stuff. So I really like that.
Carr, Bijan, Kamara as a start.
Now you can do whatever you want. So now you can plug in your Demario Douglases, your...
Well, let's try to see. Like I do want to find a way to play Thielen.
So play him. Yeah, let's put him in.
But now I have no A.J. Brown and I have no CeeDee Lamb.
So you play Pollard.
Just have... I mean, if I have enough money to play... I don't know if we have enough money to play Pollard at this point. We really have to cheap out elsewhere. And like in the flex, we probably have to play Singletary. If we want to get back up to someone good, then we have to play Demario Douglas. And then the tight end is like Logan Thomas to counteract the other side in a mini stack with Demario Douglas. Now we're at 35. We're back up to 54. with a defense and a receiver to play with here.
But you can easily play Giants D in this lineup. You should have all the money in the world.
We will have 85. We're almost there with A.J. Brown.
So you just go, who's the $3,400? Isn't it's not really. I thought it was almost 3,400. You could go
at tight end.
You could go to Otten at 3,000.
Could go to Otten, or you could take Demario Douglas down to. I mean, how much is Shaheed this week? Because that's the other way to think about this. Shaheed's 4,500.
Yeah.
That instead of going to A.J. Brown, you can just overload with Shaheed in this lineup, and then you still have $8,000 for a receiver, but that's the dead zone. Because it's not enough for Devontae Adams, then you're dealing with like banged up Puka with God knows who was playing quarterback for the Rams.
God, man, you just missed by a little bit, eh?
But if you take Thomas down to Otten, then you have the money, right? You don't have enough for A.J. Brown, but you still have enough for Cooper Kupp or CeeDee Lamb if you wanted it.
Yeah, I guess I don't hate. I like the Singletary Otten mini stack. It's a good matchup for Tampa Bay, and we just don't want to play. If you don't want to play Baker, you don't want to go with those full stacks. Otten and Singletary could end up being pretty valuable. That leaves you 9,000. So I could just play A.J. Brown and your Rams D. Here, I'll give you this lineup. You'll like this one.
Okay.
Rams was 26, weren't they?
Rams are 2,600, correct.
Okay, so you got Derek Carr, Kamara, Bijan.
Mm-hmm.
You've got A.J. Brown, Thielen, and Douglas. And then you've got Otten, Singletary, secondary stack, and the Rams defense.
There it is.
You got $100 left over.
How does that project out?
2 points off the original.
And again, with Singletary as well.
That's true, yes. So now you've got your Kamara, Bijan, Thielen, A.J. Brown, really good value plays in Douglas and Singletary, a unique defense, a quarterback that should get brought along and has put up 20 of his own. Like, this is pretty good.
This was the other idea that I had besides Bryce Young. I think for my King of the Beach lineup, it's going to come down to that Bryce Young lineup and some adjustments, or this lineup with some adjustments. Or the one other one that I wanted to go with. So let's build that out now, because I want to talk through this. I like how the show is just like me trying to give away my lineup, yet try to build a decent lineup.
It's good. It's good exercise.
Lamar. If it's a slate about, because you kind of said that there's all these values that are emerging, especially in a small field. Now, it would be different if it was a big field, but everyone's going to be on Demario Douglas. If Pierce is out, everyone's going to be on Singletary.
Yep.
So I have the same two guys as everyone else. Then how do I get a little bit different off that? Using Lamar isn't going to be different, but if the whole goal is to get like 5 guys that score 25 points, well, there's one of them.
Well, also, he's going to be different because anybody spending $8,200 on a quarterback is likely to have Hurts, where they feel much safer in a big environment in the afternoon, and people feel safer with knowing, I could still late swap if things don't go my way. If you put up 35 Lamar points, by the way, 17-1 straight up, that's not fantasy points, but straight up in these games against NFC opponents, at home, favorited, almost a 45-point total. This is a spot for Lamar. If you got 35 out of him early, you're feeling really good.
And you might get 11, but you might get 38 too.
Yeah, 29 and 37 right there in the mix. So if you get those 30 points.
12, 37, 18, 12, 29. Last 5 games for Lamar.
Yeah. So that's part of the plan here. I think there's some consideration around the rest of the build, though, when you think of it from the perspective of you're saying
Zay?
He's going to beat Hurts. I don't even think you have to stack him, but we will for this purpose.
Well, how much is Andrews? Andrews 668 is too much.
Especially there's so many good tight ends on the slate that are cheap. Like, again, when you have a slate not so good, but I'm saying versus some of the other spots.
But if I'm also thinking, like, how do I get my path to both be different and to near the top where I'm in? I mean, if it's one of the Lamar to Andrews 2 touchdown, 6 for 80, 2 touchdown games, I'm basically there.
Right. I was going to say that I think that like a really good setup in this lineup would be like a Goddard Pollard, where you still actually have, like you're saying Lamar is smoking Hurts here, which means Hurts is likely done. You don't want to do this if you're like, oh, but Lamar is going to get 31 and Hurts is going to get 29. I picked right. You want to be right.
Yeah, I want to be right. Lamar over Hurts.
Right. So it's like that means you're hoping Brown goes down with the crew as well. And so how do you still get access to a 47-point total? And you can late swap off it. You're going to have other options in that afternoon spot if you don't like it. But I'm just saying it's definitely opportunity here to have something like that set up in advance.
Interesting.
Because you liked Goddard anyway. You don't have to do the Pollard thing, but I'm saying...
I didn't like Goddard. That's just where I kept landing with the amount of money that I had left.
I do like Goddard. I think the matchup's good. I also think the spot is if you're not going to get an A.J. Brown type game and Devontae Smith is still expensive and all the other factors, like, oh, so what? If Julio Jones gets you, he gets you. But I'm interested in Goddard. I also think using Goddard without Hurts in the tight end where you're playing Lamar without Andrews, another level to the lineup. So I definitely think that's possible as well.
So how do we figure out the running backs in this lineup? Do we want to go cheap running backs or expensive running backs?
I think you think about it from the perspective of Lamar over Hurts for starting point and saying if it's not Lamb, Brown, what are we doing? I think you're paying up at running back. I think you're going like Kamara and Barkley, both. Or something along those lines. Kamara, Barkley, Singletary. Let's start there.
Kamara, Barkley, Singletary, and then...
Assuming he's the guy.
And almost guarantees that Demario Douglas is in this lineup.
Well, you can go the Giants D to go with your Barkley play. I mean, you're already off the board, so it really doesn't matter. Demario leaves you 5,200.
All right, so I have receiver, tight end. I got $5,000 left. So Goddard actually does work here.
I put Goddard in, so that's why I say you got 5,200 left.
Goddard. So 5,200 for two receivers. Do we want to go one up, one down? Do we want to take the balanced approach here?
Yeah, you're not really going to like where it lands us. It's not very good.
Yeah, I can see that. But,
so maybe Barkley has to be changed. Do you like Kamara still? You talked about him multiple times. We even built him into the car lineup.
I like Kamara. I think just objectively looking at it, he's probably the best play on the slate outside of Thielen.
So take Barkley out and move Singletary up for now.
Okay, and that means we can play Thielen.
Let's try and get money here. Yeah, let's do this. Let's go get Thielen.
We get Singletary and Thielen.
Gets you.
That leaves us with 54 per player. But now we open up running back again. So we could go...
It's not that good.
It's not, but we could pay down. Who is the... How much is stupid Aguilar? 3,000?
I just don't think you need to even stack it, but if you did, you'd probably want to go with Zay again.
Yeah, but Zay's $5,700. What I'm saying here is if I can find...
It leaves you 5,100.
A punt Raven. Well, the move would be use Zay Flowers and Chuba Hubbard.
Yep.
But I'm already using Thielen in this lineup. And I have far more confidence in Thielen than I do in Chuba Hubbard.
But you could definitely build a Bryce Young lineup that ends up with those guys in it. So
well, how about this? What if we go to flex and we use Rashad White? 56. Is there a $5,200 receiver that's any good? Downs for the other side of Thielen if he plays.
It's a rough spot to be in. It's more of a pay up, pay down. I think you need to pay down at receiver.
Okay, so let's pay down at receiver.
So who's the other guys that you like down there?
Crowder, Mingo.
Crowder, because you don't want to play two of the same, right? Gets you 7,400
for a flex, which gets
Mike
us
Evans. It's really man.
I mean, Evans can work because we don't have any
Evans with
Singletary
projects really bad.
I can see that.
Man,
I think it's just too much. If there's no obvious piece, and what we talked about before. Like you said, can you have 4 or 5 guys that can score you 30 points? When we count them up in this lineup, you got Lamar, you got Kamara, Thielen.
Mike Evans would fit it. So
Mike Evans
would count, but then you're in rough shape because you're counting some of the others that it's not as ideal. So
yeah.
Feels like a bit, that's what I mean. You'll find it when you start building like this. Everyone can apply this to what they're doing for the tournaments that they're playing in. If it doesn't feel like it's going to get there, yeah, it's something to be said for being comfortable, feeling uncomfortable. But we're also being using the math, the numbers, everything to go and put it all together. It just doesn't seem nearly as plausible to get you a top 30% finish as what the other one does.
Well, what's the best case scenario for I was going to say Harry Douglas. It's not Harry Douglas. It's DeMario. Super DeMario. 8 for 81 and a touchdown is his basically best case scenario.
Yeah, you're looking at 5 to 8 targets. Probably. And then
whatever
he does with those,
probably.
and then he gets in the box. So you're looking at 7 to 18 points. Feels like that.
Yeah. But if he gets in the box, he probably gets over 20.
You're in good shape if he gets in the box. But so is everybody, because everybody's playing him. So, but that's the key too, is you need to play someone to make the other stuff work. Where you need to get it right is on the other stuff. What we're saying is the lineups we had before this, I think with even the Baker one, the Bryce one, the Carr, let's just use Bryce and Carr. Bryce, Carr, and Baker, I'll say all 3. They felt like we had 4 to 5 guys that could get 30 plus that weren't all the exact same guys. There was 1 or 2 crossover pieces, but for the most part, you had upside there.
What if we do this? Take out Evans and take out Crowder, turn Goddard into Logan Thomas. Just, we're not playing that game.
Okay.
Because it just didn't work with, we looked at it, didn't work. And now we can use Zay Flowers. We can go Lamar and Zay, Logan Thomas at tight end, and Bijan as the flex. And just hope this is social media running back Bijan Robinson finally has his week. Then you have Kamara, Singletary, Bijan as your 1, 2, 3 at running
You get
back.
your Rams D in there too. Get off the chalk D.
Get off the chalk D and get back up to Rams. Like, I actually like that lineup better than the one we just built.
You like this better than the
Mike Evans.
the Carr lineup?
No, I don't like this better than the Carr lineup.
Okay,
Than the other Lamar
Yeah,
lineup.
I mean, this is better than the other one for sure. I like this better big time. But it just depends on if you like it better than the one you'd previously built. But you do have some stuff in here, right? You've got a little secondary with Demario Douglas and Logan Thomas. You've got the defense that's different. I mean, this lineup definitely has leverage in it. Zay goes with Lamar, so if Lamar's having the big day, you hope Zay is coming with him. So now you've got Lamar, Kamara, Thielen, Bijan, but you've got a secondary stack in the Logan Thomas, Demario. You've got Demario and Singletary, assuming he's the guy, the good value plays, and a unique defense. This lineup, just going back to comparing the two, I think has way more likelihood than the previous one. Feels better going in, and probably has more likelihood of giving you the leverage that you need to be able just to sneak in and get up there.
Okay. Last one I want to do.
Okay.
This would actually be a good time for now that we build the lineups on the show, this actually would be a good opportunity to do the live show again, like viewer's choice kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Who is the crappiest quarterback you would be willing to build around?
Aiden O'Connell with Devontae Adams. Everyone's playing Jacobs, Devontae Adams squeaky wheel, and O'Connell getting the guy. He's the guy. They plugged him in.
And you get an indoor game.
You play him, you play Barkley and Adams. No one's playing this.
So why not Jacoby Myers? Why Devontae Adams?
Because he's just better.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm stumbling over, but it's obvious. I think that's why. Like, I don't care. Myers was Jimmy G's guy that he just couldn't let go of. Adams is the squeaky wheel. We're leveraging Josh Jacobs here. You're doubling down, and I'm getting two guys that I want to see break 35 plus here. If Adams has the huge game, O'Connell comes with him. 8,100. You get Barkley in there. Now we start playing some of the chalk. I'm going to put Singletary. I'm going to put Demario.
Let's see here. I'm just actually going to use Run the Sims to find my stack. There it is. No, I don't want a running back. I want a receiver. Bleep.
I don't remember who we said at tight end.
Find my stack. Devontae, so 100% exposure to that stack. Let's generate some lineups. So it's Aiden O'Connell, Chuba Hubbard, and yeah, because Barkley ends up in the flex in this spot. So Jonathan Taylor and Chuba Hubbard as running backs. Hubbard and Taylor as the flex. And then it goes Thielen, Demario with Devontae Adams. Thielen, Harry Douglas. McBride is the tight end, and Patriots D is the D.
Okay.
Is what the optimizer is telling me with those three guys.
So this is 1.5 off the original best lineup.
Oh, that's sturdy, man. That is
So
a
Barkley-
dirty fucking lineup.
Barkley, Taylor, Adams, Thielen, and then a bunch of good value plays in there. And you can definitely still flip this too. Like, I think if I would take out Hubbard and McBride, and I assume I can get Singletary into this if that news comes out.
Yeah, but where do you go to tight end is the thing.
Well, I'm trying to get to...
Can you get Goddard? You
That's
can
what I'm
get
trying to
Goddard
get to.
pretty easily, I think, because you just move Patriots D down to Rams D.
I think that's what it is. Goddard. And now it gives me that stupid $2,500 price point again.
So you just use Giants D.
Against them, yeah. I don't know what I would do there. But I think either way, this is definitely a lineup that you can play.
Seahawks D against Lamar.
Probably.
I don't like that, but
Probably
see,
not.
that's the thing. The Goddard play just takes you out of like a lot of weird ranges.
I also, the more I look at it and just spend time in it, we'll see where I actually end up. But the Thielen play is not, I'm not as high as it. Like that 15 to 20 is not going to be good enough at the 75 if we're counting him as one of those guys, my previous example. So that I struggle with that a little bit too.
I think he's a great play. I think
He
Kamara.
is. He's great for 15 to 20, which could be enough. I'm saying, but when I'm trying to get 4 to 5 guys that can get me 30 plus, he's done it. He's done it. You can go look at his game log. There's 3 games in there. But if he doesn't do it this week,
yeah, and 15's the like
15's, if it's the floor spot, I'm just saying, is there other guys that we can plug in there? Like your example, Pittman, that you brought up.
Hey, listen, I had Pittman in my in the main lineup that I'm rolling with right now. Pittman is in it, but then you go Pittman Chuba. That's the mini stack that you end up doing.
Yeah, it's the problem is too. There's not like any crazy. You're gonna have to get tight end right too.
Yeah, so let's just take these guys out and we'll play that one. We'll play Chuba instead of Jonathan. Take out Thielen, play Chuba in the flex, and play Pittman.
I don't feel that much
at
better
receiver,
about
and then you
either,
go
just flips it.
$7,200 for a tight end.
You get too much. Well, you just upgrade your D and play any tight end you want. So it'd be Goddard.
Or you could, or you play. Is anyone playing Hawkinson?
I think so.
Okay.
We just didn't talk about it enough, but I definitely think they are. I'm seeing him 8 to 10. It's not like crazy.
Okay.
So he would be fine as well. If who do you think Hall uses when he comes in?
I don't know. I know nothing about this guy. Madison?
Maybe you got to go to like Bijan. I don't hate this Bijan play this week. And then Saquon, we're leveraging Kamara, so then I can take Pittman to Olave.
See, I think I'd rather just play Pittman.
And D is so close.
Browns D and a $5,400 tight end. Play.
I was trying to get to God. I was going like, here's my examples. If you get like Barkley, Bijan, Devontae, Olave, Goddard, like there's real potential there because the other thing too is the more that it's coming to my mind now, a good probably take for near the end of the show here, but just that is tight end. Whoever breaks tight end seems like that could be your piece to unlock it.
Yeah.
Because then the other 4 you get away. We built tons of lineups today where there was 4 and a tight end to make it work or a tight end that fits. If you get Goddard 2 touchdown game, you're probably in really good shape because you can still fit Olave, Adams, Bijan, Barkley. Just in this example, you can flip that to whatever you're comfortable with. I'm just saying that's an example where it might be worth it to get a good tight end this week or make sure your tight end matches your stack so you get the double boost from it, which you were doing earlier anyway with some of the other stacks.
All right. I think that'll do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Tune in 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time on Mayo Media Network and catch Tambo, Hoop, and the Ship It Nation gang live, breaking all of this down. Watch Pierce be active, and then I have to go rebuild all these Singletary lineups.
That's going to happen.
But that's the play. Like if everyone, what do you think that does to Hubbard's ownership if Singletary opens up?
Hubbard goes super low.
Then does he become a good play?
What did Run the Sim say?
Yes.
We didn't run the optimals earlier. We did, but I'm saying he was fitting into those then.
But just it still has Pierce's in right now because we don't know if he's in or out.
Right.
So, I mean, I can go through and manually.
We'll see what ends up happening with it, but then that's where I wonder, that's where you also could see more people be able to get to Thielen and don't play Hubbard anymore, and then Hubbard becomes the guy. So
Points per dollar wise, right now, Hubbard is the 3rd best running back behind Jonathan Taylor and Bijan.
Jonathan Taylor scares us, probably scares everybody. We'll see if that ownership actually holds up.
It's 16%.
It's tough. It feels like it still will, but it's like I don't know.
Do you just play Zach Moss instead? Because he's the guy who outscores him every week.
It's possible. Definitely a spot for him. This is a team that gives up a ton of
Rushing
the 10+ catch and runs or whatever, and that's what Moss has been crushing. And I think he's behind only Achane, who's now injured, but still, he was crushing that too before, and Moss is right up there with him.
All right. At Toteg and Tambo on Twitter, he's going to be giving away $30,000 to someone when he wins King of the Beach.
That'd be incredible. I'd love to do it.
Hopefully we can qualify and we can go to Miami together. We do this show live from Miami.
I would. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
There's not much to do during the day, so
I'll bring my camera with me. I'll bring some mics. Paul can come here.
Depends on what the excursion is, but we got to get there first. But if there's a really good
excursion.
Usually, yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Oh, it'd be so much fun. But we could do this before or after.
Oh, okay.
It's lots of ways to get it done. We'll get the job done either way.
All right. Follow me at the PME. Playing the Listeners League, by the way. We need to fill that up. Over 1,000 spots remain. So please go do that now. Smash like and sub to the channel where you're here. And runthesims.com code Mayo will get you access to all of the sim tools, the DFS tools, whatever it might be. You can go pick whatever packages that you like, okay? Rate and review the podcast as well while you're here. I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. Good luck this week. I'll see you next time.